right, our next presenter is going to be Tyrel Hulet. He's a PE project manager and senior engineer with Trihydro. Tyrel is a civil engineer with 17 years of experience leading complex mine reclamation and infrastructure projects across the western U.S. As a project manager, he has developed and overseen reclamation strategies for a range of AML sites with particular expertise in coal seam fire investigation, design, and abatement. His work includes successful implementation of coal fire reclamation projects in Montana's Custer, Richland, and Prairie counties. In addition to his coal fire work, his experience spans a large-scale surface and underground mine reclamation, natural landform grading design, hydraulic design, mine and environmental permitting, and construction oversight. He's got a BS in civil engineering from the University of Wyoming, and he's a licensed professional engineer in Wyoming and Utah. He's going to give us a talk entitled Abating the Underground Threat, Coal Seam Fire Mitigation in Eastern Montana. Please welcome him. So, laser pins on there.
Oh, or you can use that. Okay, great. Well, Steve, thank you for that great introduction. I think Chat GPT may have embellished a little bit on my biography there. But I'm Tyrel Hulet. I'm a civil engineer and project manager with Trihydro Corporation. I'm based out of Laramie, Wyoming, and because we are in the heart of ore digger and cat and grizz country, I think I'm obligated to throw out a go pokes. So we're going to be talking about coal seam fires today. This background image right here is from the Okerman Fire, part of our Miles City area project, and shows some of these telltale signs of a coal seam fire. So you've got your scarred or your burned areas here, and some surface sloughing and whatnot. So what are we going to be talking about today? Well, here's a list of items we're going to be going through. I'll let you read through those, but I'd like to highlight the photo here. This was taken by my boss, Mark Donner. He got to go up and ride around in the DEQ helicopter and took a photo of the Okerman site after we were all done with reclamation. So what are coal seam fires? Well, it's not rocket science, guys. They're coal seams that are on fire. And they're often shallow. They're associated with shallow coal seam outcrops, and where you have that, those shallow outcrops of coal, you often find other AML features in those locations as well. We're going to be focusing on those shallow seam fires for this presentation. They're often hidden. There's no flames in many of them. There's sometimes no smoke or steam or anything like that. Just potentially an odor of coal fire smoke and heat. They can burn for years, decades, or even longer. They're often started by range fires, so you get like a wildfire come through an area, light some of these coal outcrops on fire, and then they'll burn and smolder there, and it becomes a vicious cycle. So those coal fires can then light off additional range fires. Through my deep Google searching, I found that the consensus is there's about 300 known coal seam fires in Montana, and they're concentrated in eastern Montana in the Powder River Basin, but really can be found anywhere with shallow coal seams. I think that 300 number is probably on the very, very low side of actually how many coal fires are out there. During our work with the Iverson project up in Richland County, we had a call with some officials from Rosebud County, and they were working to identify and map some of their coal fires. And they have, just in Rosebud County, they have over 100 known fires. Fires are often discovered by the public and landowner reports. So landowners, they understand what's going on with their lands. They see something weird out there, and thankfully they report those oftentimes to DEQ. Discovery and mapping continues. I think we'll be discovering coal fires for a very long time. And I know I was talking to a gentleman from the Crow Reservation at a past AML conference, and they've been working to do some investigation and mapping of coal fires on the reservation. So what are the effects and dangers of coal seam fires? Well, the long-term effects, they can cause surface subsidence and slope failures. They tend to change soil chemistry in those areas. They definitely sterilize vegetation where they're burning. They can disrupt drainage. You tend to find coal fires in drainages because that's a good place for coal to outcrop, be closer to the surface. And with that, you get surface or slope failures and sloughing of material down into those drainages. So you see clogged drainages associated with coal fires. As one of the presenters earlier had noted, um, the the coal fires can heat and oxidize nearby rock formations, which produces that beautiful red scoria that those of us from the Powder River Basin know and love. Other dangers, again, they're a persistent ignition source for range fires and can be a persistent point of anxiety for landowners. They're dangerous to livestock. The livestock are attracted to the warm, sometimes snow-free areas, and there's that possibility of engulfment or killing of livestock. Very dangerous to people as well. Unstable terrain, engulfment with that. If you step in the wrong place when you're around these fires, you could definitely fall in. I've heard stories of people working around these fires, stepping into the ash and coming out severely burned. These are a couple of photos from our TON number 4 site. You can see in this photo down here, you've got all the signs there. There's smoke there. There's that large area of subsidence. You've got surface cracking, all kinds of fun stuff with that one. And then in that top photo, that's of the TON 4 site as well. That's just burning coal on the surface. So how do we detect coal seam fires? Well, there's the telltale signs. There's many of them. You can see that smoke and steam plumes. There are areas that stay snow-free during the winter months. You know, talk to landowners about that. They'll often note that there's an area out on their property that doesn't hold snow for very long. Well, that could be a great sign for a coal fire. There's soil cracking or subsidence around coal outcrops, charred, dead, discolored vegetation, and then there's that odor of burning coal. It's not the same odor you get out of like our big coal-fired power plants. That raw burning coal has a specific smell to it, and once you smell it, you'll know what it is. For example, on our Miles City project, um, uh, we had most of the work all done out there, all the coal pulled out, mixed, extinguished, and we had an off wind day. So we had a kind of a weird southeastern wind come in there, and we could smell that there was still something burning out there. We ended up finding an additional 2 sites because of that. Other tools, well, thermal infrared detection cameras. You can mount those to a drone or a helicopter and fly these areas and look for changes from the ambient temperatures around there. I would say, and the USGS is doing some pretty cool stuff. They're doing satellite detection of large coal seam and mine fires. I would say that would be more applicable to probably some bigger fires than what we'll be looking at today. And social media. Social media has actually become a pretty interesting place to watch for abandoned mine land features. And because people like to post every little weird thing that they find out there on social media. So good place to monitor. This is a photo from USGS. They're using Google Earth to kind of get this information out there. It's pretty cool stuff. So we're going to go through some considerations for mitigation on this. The approach is really similar to any other AML type site. With your field mapping, the big one here is be careful around these areas. Mapping those surface expressions. The surface expressions don't tell really the whole story of what's going on underground. In many cases, these fires are much larger than what you see at the surface. So if you are going to be walking around these areas, try to keep yourself away from the surface expressions as much as possible, or if you need to get a little closer, really test that ground. You don't want to be falling in. Where there's one, there's usually many. Each project that I have been involved with, we've always found additional sites above what was originally scoped. Make sure that you have your infrared temperature gun. That's a great way to check these to make sure that maybe this isn't just a mine-related subsidence. Um, and the temperatures that you're going to be looking for could vary quite a bit. For the Miles City area fires, we were seeing temperatures at the surface of 400 degrees, 200 to 400 degrees. With the Iverson project here in Richland County, um, this one at the surface, we were seeing ambient temperatures around 40 degrees or so. The temperatures at the surface cracks were only about 60 degrees, so only 20 degrees or so different. Um, uh, just like any project like this, or at least the way I like to do it, I like to identify all my work areas in the field. I lay everything out while we're out there, map everything in. Just makes it easier for the design process. Test pitting is a really good task that you can take care of while you're out there to get an idea of what kind of quantities you might be working with. But it really depends on the topography that you're working in. With the Iverson project, it was a little flatter out there. We were able to get around there with equipment, do some test pits in there, and get an idea of how much coal that we might be working with, how much coal is there, how much might be on fire, and then how much overburden we had over the top. With Miles City, we were working in really steep slopes, and it was pretty hard to get an idea of what was really going on underground there without really extensive investigation. For the design phase, so for the projects that I've worked on with coal seam fires, the big question is, do you want to do like a repository, or do you want to do direct excavation and replacement back into the fire area? And I found that it again comes down to your topography. If you're working with really steep slopes, um, with the Miles City project, we weren't really comfortable with taking that coal material out, mixing it with overburden, and then replacing it back into those steep slopes and using that to rebuild those steep slopes. We wanted some more consistent material, so we went with a repository design on that, so we could get that extra borrow material to bring it in and rebuild those slopes. Um, for replacement, one thing you want to look at, are you able to mound that material in place? So with direct replacement, we like to go with about a 2-to-1 mixing ratio of overburden to hot coal and ash material. And that's this cross section right here. You can see that we've got the existing ground and hot coal and ash in there. But then when you bring in that extra material, you got to have somewhere to place it. And can you mound it up and still create a stable landform if you're doing that kind of work that won't be prone to erosion in the future? The benefit of doing a repository type design is you get that extra factor of safety when you pull that material out, you mix it all up, and you process it. If you were to have some hot spots left in that material, you're not placing it directly back over the coal seam. There's potential for reignition on that. Other items to consider are areas to quench materials. Do you have that area to pull that material out and be able to mix it up? There can be quite a bit of room needed to do that kind of work, and just what kind of borrow quantities are needed. It can be, again, this is a theme across this. It can be difficult to estimate those quantities. These sites tend to be pretty decent in size for the size of fire that you may be mitigating. So there are permitting aspects associated with that for sure as well. NEPA clearances, archaeological clearances, and they're often big enough that you're going to need a discharge permit for any work, just like any other site that we may be doing disturbance work on. For construction, a lot of field fitting with these projects. So we oftentimes don't know the full extent of the fire. So it's great to have experienced operators and experienced oversight working these sites who understand replacing or rebuilding these landforms and building them in a way or grading them in a way where you're not going to have potential erosion in the future. Again, hard to estimate quantities, and it's hard to measure those quantities in the field as well, because you're taking lots of material from from above the fire or around the fire, from borrow areas, mixing that all up. And, you know, they're fairly small sites. Is it really worth it to have a full-time surveyor out there? You can estimate it with Miles City. It was 15 years ago. I was using a handheld GPS unit and estimating quantities that way. But that feeds in kind of the next bullet here, where you should really potentially consider doing these on time and materials. So you're not arguing with your contractor on, was it 300 yards or was it 302 yards or something along those lines. This is a breakdown here of the bid quantities for the Iverson project, and then down below is our stormwater pollution prevention plan map. So where BMPs we're going. So we're going to move into looking at some fun photos here. We'll be going through the Miles City area project first. You can see some of the quantities that we were dealing with this project. And we are going to go into the Wayback Machine on this one. It is 15 years old at this point, but it's still a great project to share. It was started by a 2007 range fire, completed under Montana AML with Ed Baxter Construction out of Billings. Investigation was 2009. 8 separate sites around the Pumpkin Creek area of Custer County. And construction was April 2010 to May 2011. Project challenges on this one. The remote and rugged Powder River Basin terrain. Weather conditions, we went from a really, really wet spring to a really dry summer. And then we also had some winter work in there as well. Burning into really steep slopes, unstable slopes, and again, the field investigation and quantities issues associated with this. But we had some really great coordination with some awesome landowners out there. So we'll see if this is going to work. Oh, no, too far. Come on. Maybe I can play it here. Okay, we're not going to worry about that. This is a video of the Okerman fire that the landowner took. And it's open, burning coal, and it's really very striking and pretty scary stuff. Yeah, it's not wanting to go. It's all right. But we'll get into some photos here. So we're going to look at a few photos of just the surface expressions of coal seam fires here. This is the McNamee Ranch fire. You can see the surface expressions of the fire here, the area devoid of vegetation, the charred vegetation here, surface cracking, and some slope issues in here. If you take one thing from this presentation, take this. If you're standing out in here, there's a pretty good chance that you're going to have a bad time. So don't be doing that. Here's a good photo of some of the charred vegetation along one of the surface cracks at the McNamee fire. These are the Ton Ranch fires. Again, burning into some really steep slopes. You can see the surface cracking there, the slope failure here, and then this photo just highlights the steep slopes that we were working with these fires. This is another fire on the Ton Ranch. This one is burning into a drainage. Again, the surface cracking and the failure of the slope and the sloughing off of material into the drainage here and running down the drainage. This is before photos for the Okerman project. Pretty steep slopes in here. We've got some smoke and all kinds of fun stuff going up on there. We had some sandstone caprock in here that we were dealing with, but fortunately it was pretty incompetent, so we could pull that out of there. We're going to go into construction of the Okerman project. So first off, we start off by pulling material down from the top of the slope and into the fire area. We're going to use that material to help quench the fire. With this project, we had quite a bit of water available to us because of the wet conditions that we were dealing with during the spring. So you can see our repository here is filled with water. And down here, we have excavator removing that hot material. But we also have a line coming in here where we were dumping water into the actual fire and using that to help quench the material as well. This photo over here is a great photo, kind of just showing everything that was going on for the mitigation of this project. We have the excavator sitting here pulling out hot material, overburden, and placing it behind it to mix. And we have the water truck sitting down here pumping water up into the fire area. We've got the dozer running here, pushing material to the excavator, and our repository stockpile back here. We did have BMPs lining this whole lower section of the work area. This material right here, once it was quenched, scraper would come up, grab that, place it into the repository. So this is after all of the material, the hot material, processed material was pulled out of the area. This was a little bit hard to see, but this is how we're rebuilding the slope. The scraper would go to the repository stockpile location, pick up a load of dirt, bring it up, run it along the base of the slope, and by doing that, we were getting pretty good compaction as we were coming up the slope. And once we got up high enough where the scraper didn't have enough room to work, we bring an excavator and rebuild the remaining portion of the slope. As you can see, we're dealing with some pretty steep slopes out there. We broadcast seeded this area and then laid in erosion control matting for potential erosion. Another one under Miles City I'd like to highlight is the TON number 4 site, and this one has a little bit of both. We've got coal fire burning into a slope, and we also have this area down here that's got quite a bit of burning going on in the flat. So we took material out of the repository, brought it over to the flatter area, used the dozer to push that material over the fire, brought in the excavator then to mix everything up and cool it off that way. We didn't have as much water to use on this one because we were working in winter months and working with freezing conditions. So here we've got the old Terex scraper from the 1960s or 70s, pulling that quenched material out and then taking it to the repository and dumping it in there. I really like this set of photos here. It's a great lessons learned from this project. But this photo was taken on a Friday, 12/3, and I walked this myself, checked it with the IR gun. Everything was a nice, clean, cool face, very consistent in temperature. 2 days later, there was 2 hot spots that cropped up and burned that far in those 2 days. So if you are working on a coal seam fire project like this, try to give that face some time out in the open air. Leave it open for maybe an overnight or something like that. It'll tell you if you've got any additional hot spots in there. The Iverson coal fire project started by the 2017 Uper fire, completed again under AML, Montana AML with France Construction out of Sydney. Investigation was 2020, 2021, 3 separate sites southwest of Culbertson. Construction was January 2022 to May 2022. Project challenges on this one. COVID restrictions definitely set the project back. We found an additional fire during the site visit. Extremely dry conditions in that part of Montana in 2021 through 2022. Weather conditions. We pushed back to not do this in the summer due to fire danger, and Northeast Montana did Northeast Montana weather. And equipment maintenance. We'll see a little bit more of that one here. Here's the Iverson fires before. This is the North Fire. You can see the large subsided area there, surface cracking, bad vegetation. And then this is the South Fire. It was more on a slope, so slope failure with that one. So because of the high fire danger, and we're not going to be able to get to these projects in a really timely manner, Montana AML brought out a smaller contractor and cut in some fire breaks around these areas, which was a fantastic idea. Um, the fire danger was really high out there, and I'm glad we were able to get out there and get these put in there. Maybe something to consider if you're looking at a coal seam fire and you've got a little bit longer timeline on it. Again, test pitting around this, we were able to kind of define the boundaries of the fire and understand the quantities on this one a bit better than we did with Miles City. Some pretty photos here of moving that coal, hot coal out and mixing it with overburden material. They used the dozer to pull that material up into the quenching area here, and then using the excavator to mix with clean borrow and get that one. We didn't use a whole lot of water on this site either, just because of freezing temperatures, but just we're able to get it quenched out with just overburden material. It shows the kind of the full expressions of the fire here and how big it got from existing. Dozers sitting out there moving some more hot material around. And take a look at the dozer here. It is absolutely covered in dust and ash and everything else. The contractor was cleaning out filters daily and also replacing those filters on their equipment weekly. So keep that in mind. There is a substantial maintenance component to equipment on projects like this. This is the south fire here. We've got this clean coal face here, and the excavators chasing that hot coal around to the side here. This photo here is of the hot coal that's sitting out. As soon as you open up these fires to the open air, they go from 200 degrees, 60 degrees, whatever, to 1,000 degrees in a matter of seconds once it gets that air on it. And here's the after photos of the Iverson fire. So got some good operators out there, did a real nice job on this finished surface, and here's everything seeded and mulched. I have to admit that, like, doing this work was probably some of the most rewarding work that I've done in my career. Seeing the look of relief on the landowners' faces after we were done was worth every part of this. So I'm going to open it up for questions, but I want to hit some special thanks here to people that were involved with this project. Many of them have moved on from the positions that they were in at the time. But I do want to highlight that Scott Graham, he was the PM for the Iverson project, and he put together an awesome YouTube video. And if you scan this QR code, you can take a look at that, comment on it, and we'll see if he says anything. So thanks, everyone. I really appreciate your time.
So how did you handle the CO exposure for operators down in the hot pits?
For the most part, we're open air enough that it wasn't a huge deal. That's pretty much how we managed it. Yeah.
Okay. So carbon monoxide is a covalent bond, so it's cumulative. Did you use O2 monitors or anything? Nothing?
We didn't have any O2 monitors on it.
Good.
Nope.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. That is a great consideration, though.
I'm just curious if these are connected laterally and whether you had covered one area and had another area reappear. I guess the other part of the question is, would ground penetrating radar help in identifying?
It, I never thought of using ground penetrating radar for this. In these areas, it may work. I haven't had the greatest luck with ground penetrating radar in especially areas where we have, maybe like sandstone cap rock, that kind of stuff for understanding voids. As for your first question, not from what we could see, they were connected to other stuff. We chased it out as far as we found burning coal, but you could definitely tell that it was a lot of the same coal seam that was burning, but up to like a mile apart. Well, thank you for that. What's that? Oh, yeah.
So I have a question. So it's not, these aren't always necessarily an AML, right? An
Yep.
AML site. So what agency, regulatory body has primacy or authority or responsibility over coal seam fires?
You know, I was thinking about that a little bit too. We were always able to tie this to other AML features in order to get funding for doing this work. Um, that's that's a tough one because I think additional funding sources out there, or not necessarily responsibility sources, would be counties, state level, and I was also thinking about maybe like the Emergency Watershed Protection Program through NRCS might be an opportunity.
Sure. Just curious. It seems like it's kind of falls between
It does.
the gaps.
Yeah.